Hey, you're back. All right. Hope you enjoyed our little break from each other and stuff. Um, just to do what comics used to do, give everybody an update here. This is part two of a two-part little video show where basically I've gone through my comic books, and because I have started on Comic Book Database, comicbookdb.com, I'm HowlerMouse2 on there, and I'm blogging all of my comics onto there so I can look at them and have a reference and stuff. And I'm about I think 2,600 books into it, or give or take, which is probably about a fifth of my collection. So it's a work in progress. And along the way, I've run across books that I figure I pulled out, just pretty much put in a video because I found them interesting, or little things. So in this one, we just got 3 books, and last video ran probably about 20 minutes, and I really expected it to be a 10-minute video. So I wanted to share these books and maybe just decided to do it part 2. Now, before we get into it, because the next 2 books after this one I want to show are kind of heavy. And back when I was in school, you could get up in the morning, and TBS back then would be showing cartoons for an hour before you got on the bus and stuff, where you had to go to the bus stop. And this was a lot of things, Tom and Jerry, just whatever they had and stuff. Excuse me. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, they showed some Alvin and Chipmunk cartoons from the 60s and stuff every now and then. And part of that, and hopefully somebody like Captain Strangelove or Hippies Collectibles or somebody out there will correct me if I'm wrong, but they had like, in between the Alvin and Chip, part of the show was Clyde Crash Cup. Clyde Crash Cup was an inventor who I just thought his stuff was hilarious, and I think I'd laugh now if I watched it. And he had a little assistant named Leonardo who never spoke. And Clyde Crash Cup would get his pencil out, and he would be so absurd and stuff that he would invent the obvious. Okay? I'll give you an idea here. This is a Dell comic from 1963 that I got 6-7 years ago. And they had maybe one, 2, or 3 of these or something like that. They were in really bad shape, and I didn't want to get a book that was in bad shape. Some had been written on and stuff. But this one has a rip. I'll go through it here at the bottom. But when I saw the cover, I could not buy it. Alright, let's take your mind to the gutter for a minute. Look at the position of the cannon and how little Leonardo is just dangling from the end, all spent, if you will. I saw that and I was just like, I can't believe they got by with that. I'm thinking maybe the artist who did these comics back in the day, a lot of people were kind of ashamed that they were doing comics, and I guess this was either he had an awesome sense of humor or he was just being very passive aggressive, maybe, so I think it's hilarious. But to give you an idea about Clyde Crash Cup here, since I brought him up, I'm sure his cartoons are on YouTube. I'll probably look. Stories include Clyde Crash Cup invents the dog. He invents the weather. He invents communication. And, just funny little stories and stuff like that. I mean, I really enjoyed the cartoons, but he's worth checking out. I'm not going to get to a big review like that, because I'd end up I would end up doing a bad interpretation of him and trying to talk like him and going way over trying to explain what I remember from the cartoon. And I'm pretty sure you can just look it up on YouTube. Clyde Crash Cup. Very worth it. Now, it's kind of cool about how you can have a whole bunch of comics, and there's just been, bound to been millions over the years and stuff like that. And you like one comic one year that's kind of out of the ordinary and just well done and different, because the trick in my opinion, to a really good collection and to really enjoy the hobby is that you got to have some variety in there. Okay, I think the worst thing you can do is just read comics, or someone who writes comics has just done nothing but read comics. You got to read a few other things, and it kind of enriches the comic book when you start picking up where these guys might have got an idea. Okay. And the most simple out there, the most simple thing to give you an example of is the classic illustrated series come out, where they just flat out take a book and adapt it to comics. Tom Sawyer, Treasure Island, and You know, a bunch of Mark Twain stuff. You know, you know what I'm talking about. If you read Roy Thomas and stuff, you'll find all kinds of stuff that he's pulled from novels and stuff and thrown in there. And Roy Thomas is the go-to guy. He's one of the guys that are responsible for bringing Conan to comics, and those were pulp books. And you know, he did an adaptation of The Hobbit, and you know, they always bring him in. You know, he did Dorian Gray and a few other characters and stuff. But if you read like some of his Avengers and stuff like that, um, especially a book called Gladiator and stuff, there's all kinds of stuff you'll find that he put in the comics. But anyway, the thing that I liked about these two books I'm going to show is I didn't realize it until I did this, got ready to do this video while I was waiting to load part 1 and do part 2. So I looked at them and I realized that I bought these books probably 6 years apart maybe, and never realized it, but one's the beginning and one can be considered the end, just the way with the subject matter of the book. The first book is from Eclipse Comics. It's more of a magazine style book. It's from 1990. It's an anthology series. They would take Isaac Asimov stories from Isaac Asimov and his science fiction magazine that he had. Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine. And they would adapt the stories into comic form. Eclipse Comics did this before they went under. The story I want to talk about in this one takes place in the Garden of Eden. You know, that could be considered the beginning. And then the last one we'll get is, like, to me, this is the Lost Alan Moore book, probably because it was ignored by Image and stuff and everything like that. And I think this came out around 96 maybe. And it's Wildstorm Spotlight #1 on Mr. Majestic, and it's at the end of the universe. Entropy has come. The universe has expanded, and now it's collapsing back upon itself, and it's just about the end of the universe. And there's a lot of immortal characters that are stranded, and what's going to happen to them. So first of all, a guy named Alpha, that's his name, Alpha, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, invents a time machine. And he's going to go back in time to the Garden of Eden to try to stop Eve from being tempted by the serpent. Okay? And this thing is told tongue-in-cheek. I mean, it's a very good story. It was originally by an author named Gary Kilworth, and the art is by John Bolton, which is always great. And the story is called Follow Me Here. Start all over. Follow Me Here. The Lost Garden of Enid Blyton, Beatrix Potter, Lucy Atwell, and the rest of the lads of the 36th Parachute Regiment. This is, what number is this? Orbit, Volume 3. That's the only way I know to tell you to find it, by Eclipse Comics, because it's a really cool little short story. And basically the guy is in his time machine. He is stripped down. They give you clues where he's going. What I like about the title is that you really don't catch the Garden of Eden part, but he's preparing to go to the Garden of Eden, so he's not wearing clothes, and he test runs the thing. You know, they kind of talk about like it's a car. He wipes a rag. He wipes some oil off of it with a rag and stuff, and then he goes a little bit forward and goes a little bit back. Strips down the clothes because where he's going, it'll actually make them stand out, and there shouldn't be that many people here, and he can't imagine the Adamses being inhospitable to any visitors. I think his name is Alpha Manning. I don't know, it's not real important right now, but his first name's Alpha. And first thing when he gets there, by John Bolton there, there's Adam and Eve, and there's the serpent with his legs and stuff, and first thing that happens when he climbs out there naked, Eve's behind him looking down, and Adam's looking. He's like, "Hey, nice thingy." He's like, "What?" "Oh, the time machine." So that's kind of humorous in here. And he ends up like trying to talk to Eve, and then God pops up and has a problem with Alpha being there. Tries to tell him there's a plan, I think, and not to mess around with what he's set up with his plan. And he whips out a gun. It turns out that he was so serious about stopping everything that he brought a gun to whip out on the serpent. Of course, he doesn't know what it is, and they have a little tit for tat. And he talks the serpent out of tempting Eve. And they shake hands, and he's all happy. And then he tries to go forward in time. And what happens is that, well, every time he tries to move forward in time, no matter how far he goes, there's Adam and Eve waiting on him. "Hey, what's up?" Adam and Eve waiting on him. Adam and Eve waiting on him. Just, "Hey, there he is. There you go." And nothing has happened. And he figures out that he should have listened, I guess, to God, the way I'm remembering this. And he tempts the serpent into tempting Eve, and he comes back, and when he steps out of his time machine after letting everything happen, all of a sudden he loses his arms and legs, and turns out man is the serpent. And instead of calling us snakes and serpents, we're known as Alphas. You know, he finds a little snake family there with their arms and legs having a picnic and smoking a pipe. Another coincidence. Hmm? Hmm? And yep, that's what's happened. Absolutely love that story. I mean, it's just so unique, and to me, it's a story that's never really been told that I've ran across. It's better than a John Byrne time travel story. Anyway, and then the next one here, if you're hanging in here with me, Mr. Majestic. And it starts out that the narrative is just so good. Mr. Majestic is in space, and there's a little monologue of a dying declaration of like a nanobite robotic race, a person of I don't know, an alien of a, who they've survived because they're able to manipulate their molecules and all this stuff, and now they finally reached their limit because the big chill of entropy has hit it's so close that even molecules and stuff have stopped vibrating and have frequencies and stuff. I mean, it's big sci-fi talk, but every 4 panels and you know exactly what's going on and where you're at, and then you get to be introduced to the characters. And it's called Majestic: The Big Chill, and it's just the end of the universe, and it's how all these immortals are dealing with it. There's 9 of them, and Majestic is one of them. Now, for you guys to just to give a little background on Mr. Majestic, he's more or less, yes, a Superman type character from, Image. And he didn't always have a beard and stuff. He has crossed over with Superman and stuff. DC owns him now since they bought Wildstorm way back in the day. And the fact that Alan Moore has wrote this is real important. Alan Moore wrote some of the classic Superman stories just like anything else he just about touches, and most of the time. For The Man Who Was Everything, from Superman number 11, which people have talked about, the great Superman moment, made into a cartoon. And then he did the last Superman story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, for when Crisis has hit, and they were closing the book, closing the book on the Silver Age Superman in order for John Byrne to come in. And then he did Watchmen, and a bunch of us here in the community got together and did a 12-part, 13-part series of Watchmen, reviewing those. And somewhere along the line, I got told that Alan Moore expressed remorse because he had felt like he'd taken the innocence. He acknowledged he took the innocence out of comics, and if you ever went back to write superheroes, they were going to be bright and stuff again. Thus, the ABC line of comic books. And I went back after somebody told me that statement, and I looked at his Wildcat stuff, and it was no wonder he jumped on board the Image, man. It was just having some fun. Well, this one's a little bit more heavy, philosophical, and the 9 beings that are there basically it's Mr. Majestic, a sentient form of syphilis that goes from body to body, and you can hear him talking and stuff. What are the rest of them? A character named Aptomarix, which is like an omnipotent superhero from another planet. Gameth, the Enlightened Engine. The Red God Jijimutu. Lord Math, abstract spirit of arithmetic itself, and the Daemonotic Duke, the Italian. I think it's probably a Daemonite or something. Manny West, also known as the Wandering Jew. Our Lady Eucrastia, who lives by drinking blood. Never have I known them to be so somber. And there's like, there's what everybody sort of looks like. And they're all talking about, they go back and forth, how would immortals deal with it, and I think a lot of them just gave up, and a few, the vampire, the Wandering Jew, and the syphilis all decided to go with Majestic to see what is out there. So what would be in space during entropy that they think is worth trying to find. And I may be remembering this a little bit wrong, getting some of the details wrong, but it's just a great, great story. And it's about, I like the whole fact of the immortals facing mortality. Imagine you live in eternity, more or less, and then it's going to be over. I mean, did you ever really prepare for that? Did you ever think about that? And they do find something out there. Majestic comes upon something in space, and he goes, "There is a thing I cannot face and still retain my sanity." And he's looking dead at it, and it speaks back to him. So basically, Mr. Majestic ends up making it to be, well, from what I can remember, the last person living in the universe. And what happens? All right. Thanks for hanging in there. The part two. Just a little something I felt like sharing. So I hope you enjoy your weekend. And thanks for hanging out.